Good evening. Good to have you with us this Monday evening here on the Urban Debate. Tonight we've got 3 power-packed panels and discussions lined up over the next 2 hours on the Urban Debate. First up, we start off with the big controversy regarding the Delhi riots case, the Delhi riots investigation, and the most recent development there, which is the arrest of former JNU student leader Umar Khalid. Now, Umar has been sent to 10 days of custody by the court just a short while ago. The police had sought 10 days of custody for him. Let me first tell you what he is being charged with. Very, very serious charges, viewers. Umar Khalid has been charged with murder, sedition, rioting, conspiracy, unlawful activity, attempt to murder, assaulting public servant, dacoity, terrorist act, raising funds for terror acts, and wanton attack upon religion. Now, just to refresh your memory and take you through the sequence of events, because this is what we're going to be focusing on and talking about. Let me tell you what really happened. Umar Khalid allegedly made certain controversial speeches as he protested against the Citizenship Amendment Act and the NRC in the month of February. When Delhi riots took place between 24th to 29th of February, the very deadly, ugly riots that unfolded on the streets of the national capital at a time when the US president was also visiting India. FIR was registered in the Delhi riots case on 21st of April against Umar Khalid as well. He was first questioned in the month of August. Then he was questioned yesterday again for almost 11 hours, and then he was finally arrested. Arrested on 13th of September, almost 6 months after these riots unfolded, and charged with such serious sections. Now, here is the question. We are given to understand that the Delhi police is getting ready to file its supplementary charge sheet in this case. And they're just a few days away. In fact, maybe this week itself, the next 2-3 days, this charge sheet will be filed. It's ready. There's already a controversy going on about what the charge sheet contains. So the key question here is, when the riots took place in the month of February, when the FIR itself was filed in the month of April, when he has been questioned already, and every time he was asked to come in, he did appear, he did answer those questions. Why was there a need? What was the trigger now, 3 or 4 days before the charge sheet is going to be filed, for Umar Khalid to be arrested? It's purely a question of law. You and I right now can't go into the merits of his guilt or no guilt. We have to wait and watch what evidence the Delhi police presents. We only know that, like many others in this country, like thousands of people in this country who participated in Anti-Citizenship Act protests and participated in the NRC protests, Umar Khalid was one of them. Like several of the activists, known names, who have a large following, Umar Khalid also made speeches. But if that was the case, why did we wait all this while? And if the Delhi police has already got all the evidence, why is it just days before the charge sheet is being filed, they're seeking his arrest? What for? Those are some of the questions I want to ask. Of course, the larger debate that's also going on in this country is whether or not this arrest was really justified, or if the Delhi police is behaving in a selective manner. Remember, the charge against Delhi police also is that many others who made a lot more fiery speeches in the month of February, in the run-up to these riots, still roam free with absolutely no action against them. I'm not going to waste any time. I've got experts who are joining us on this conversation. Let's say good evening to Mr. Neeraj Kumar, former Commissioner of Delhi Police. With me this evening, Ashish Dixit, Supreme Court Advocate, and Siddharth Luthra, former Additional Solicitor General, also with me this evening. Mr. Luthra, let's begin with you. Just to the point of law, of course, there is no end date or a time bar on when the police should make an arrest. But isn't it curious that just as you're ready to present your charge sheet, you're actually making this arrest?
Look, I leave the curiosity part to you. You're the journalist, you make your own conclusions. But I will say 2 things to you. Because the offences are punishable with more than 7 years in imprisonment, the Criminal Procedure Code provides them a larger power to arrest. That's the first part. The question is not the timing of arrest, because that is something the grounds of arrest would have been served. It is not appropriate to judge or prejudge that issue. But the question you need to ask is the necessity of arrest. What investigative purpose is it going to achieve? And the effect of the arrest. The effect of the arrest is simply this, that there are twin conditions which restrict the grant of bail for persons in custody under the UAPA. And by arresting an individual, albeit at any point during the investigation, the onus then shifts on the individual to seek bail, and it's a high onus which is part of the law for now too many decades, from the terrorist times from the 1980s. So that is the effect, and in essence, in most such matters, bail is very rarely granted because of the onerous restrictions, and these restrictions, incidentally, have been upheld by the Supreme Court in Nikesh Tarachand Shah's, which is the case on the PMLA.
Okay, let me in fact just read out, since we've just got the order copy, I'm just going to read out the operative part, which is about what it is that the Delhi police really presented in the court, basis which the court has now given the Delhi police 10 days of custody. Now, it says that the Delhi police presented that Umar Khalid was part of the anti-CA protest, a student of JNU and his associates, all linked to different groups. As per pre-planned conspiracy, Umar Khalid gave provoking speeches at various places, appealed to the Muslim minority community, gathering to block roads and other public places during Trump's visit. It then goes on to say, in order to achieve these objectives, firearms, petrol bombs, acid bottles, stones, slingshots, and other dangerous articles were procured at various places as per the pre-planned conspiracy. It is further stated that during investigation, a deep-rooted conspiracy amongst rioters, instigators, and conspirators is revealed to cause above riots in the name of religion. Now, Mr. Ashish Dixit, as I read what the Delhi police had to say, I understand that Umar Khalid protested. I understand Umar Khalid asked others to join this protest. That's usually how the leaders of any movement or campaign speak. And he gave speeches at multiple places asking people to do chakka jam, come out on the streets. I don't understand what is the connection with this to what finally happened, where the violence took place, people who actually came out with petrol bombs, firearms, acid bottles, and what not. There doesn't seem to be a link that the Delhi police has found in 6 months about that.
Good evening, Tanvi. Good evening, Mr. Luthra. See, Tanvi, for whatever you are requesting that the link is not there, for that purpose only the charge sheet has to be filed. And usually you would agree with me, the police is criticized for arresting the accused in a hasty manner. Whereas in this case, you will see the police has conducted an investigation, and when they found, as per their own, in the investigation, they found that there is sufficient evidence to involve or to implicate Mr. Umar Khalid, he has been arrested. So the arrest has to be followed by a process by when accused is presented in the court. And as we can see, the court has remanded him in 10 days custody. So this prima facie justifies the need for arrest, and also to add to it that there is a need felt by court also that there should be 10 days interrogation. So this shows that prima facie police was right in making the arrest.
Let's try and understand, Ashish, you, and then I go back to Mr. Siddharth Luthra on that. Usually we're given to understand that people are arrested when more information is sought for them to help build a case to submit the charge sheet. But in this case, we're given to understand the charge sheet is already ready. It's been widely reported. It's become a big controversy. It's going to be submitted this week. Then why go for this arrest unless there is another motive?
Mr. Lucha is on the panel. He is much more experienced than me to answer this point. But let me just add one thing. That charge sheet is not about, charge sheet is also about the accused. there may be a charge sheet filed, or there is likely of a charge sheet to be filed with regard to the FIR. But when an accused is arrested, there would be investigation for that accused. He will disclose something. Some memos would be done, and investigation would be done. And for that, there is always a remedy that there can be a supplementary charge sheet. So just to say that because a charge sheet is going to be filed, the arrest should not have been done is not the right approach.
If I may.
Okay, Mr. Siddharth Luthra, if I can come to you as well on that, because many people are asking this question, that if you already have the evidence, you've prepared your charge sheet, then why do you need his custody?
No, I think I must, there's a legal clarity which must be added. A charge sheet or a report, final police report is filed against certain accused. Whether that report will be filed against Mr. Khalid or not is a matter of moot. You and I can't prejudge it. The report may be filed against other accused. So far as Mr. Khalid is concerned, from the day of his arrest, because the offences under the UAPA have been invoked, the police will have 180 days, well, 90 days and then another 90 days to file the charge sheet. So there is no urgency in filing a charge sheet or a supplementary charge sheet against Mr. Khalid, and they have the time under the law. So let's not mix up the proposed charge sheet, if any. I assume there is, as you're telling me, one, which is to be filed as against the arrest of Mr. Khalid, because as an ongoing process, in all investigations, people will get arrested at different stages. And the law provides for filing a charge sheet as against that individual within a statutory period, which may be under the CRPC 90 days, 60 days or 90 days, and under laws such as the UAP 180 days. Though what is interesting and which you seem to have, which I think you need to address is, if the UAPA provisions have been invoked, as you informed me, then this matter should ideally be with the National Investigating Agency. And while Delhi police can legitimately investigate this matter till the NIA takes it over, but eventually this ought to have gone to the NIA, and the central government ought to have taken a view whether the NIA should investigate or not, or will remain with Delhi police. But that process should have been underway, and I find it intriguing that that aspect has not been covered in your debate.
Okay, that's a very interesting point. Ashish, before I go across to Mr. Neeraj Kumar, do you have a view on this? And not just Umar, against several others, specifically in this case, all of them have been also charged under the Terrorism Act. It's a long list of people who've been charged under this. Do you also find it odd that the Delhi police is still investigating it instead of handing it over?
I think there is no embargo on Delhi police investigating the offence. It might, as Mr. Luthra rightly pointed out, it ideally should go to NIA. But I'm not sure whether there is any embargo for Delhi police to continue with the investigation, because there are already charge sheets filed in the UAPA and the courts have duly taken cognizance.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Neeraj Kumar as well. Good evening to you, Mr. Neeraj Kumar. A big controversy has erupted over the arrest of this one person in reference to the Delhi riots case, a person who says he wasn't even in the city when the riots unfolded. A part of his speech that has become extremely controversial says, and this is what he said when he was in Maharashtra at that point of time on February 17th, that on 24th Feb, when Donald Trump comes to India, we will tell that the Prime Minister and government of India are trying to divide the country. They are destroying the values of Mahatma Gandhi, and that the people of India are fighting against the rulers. If the rulers want to divide India, people of India are ready to work towards uniting the country. We will come out on the streets. Will you people come out, is what he said. And in the same speech, as is being reported by many, Umar Khalid in fact went on to say, we will not respond to violence with violence. We will not respond to hate with hate. If they spread hate, we will respond to it by spreading love. If they beat us up with lathis, we will hold aloft the tricolour. If they fire bullets, then we will hold the Constitution and raise our hands. If they jail us, we will go to jail happily singing Sare Jahan Se Acha Hindustan Hamara. So many are asking if the Delhi police is being selective in its action. One after the other, all those who have been arrested so far are the ones who were protesting against Citizenship Amendment Act, but several others who came out against this group still roam free. Mr. Neeraj Kumar, your view on that?
First of all, I think a certain portion of the speech that Umar Khalid made has been very conveniently left. There is a portion in the speech which makes makes him involved in the case, makes him an accused, has not been quoted or read out. That is number one. That there is absolutely no fuss. There should be absolutely no fuss over the arrest because he has been made an accused. He has been arrested in the case. And what's the fuss about? I mean, he will be charge sheeted in due course of time, and the charges will be, hopefully framed by the court. So I don't think there is anything controversial. There is anything to protect Mr. Khalid in this matter. It is everything is stacked against him. Whatever he may have said in the earlier part of his speech, he more than nullified in a certain portion where he incites people to come out on the streets and to spread violence while Mr. Trump was here.
Okay, the other controversial point, and I have asked the legal experts on it, Mr. Neeraj Kumar, also your view, is the question that is being raised that the Delhi police's subsequent charge sheet, the supplementary charge sheet is also ready. This was an incident that happened in February. The FIR itself was filed in May. In April, Umar has been multiple times questioned. Why is he being arrested just days before the charge sheet?
No, that is entirely the discretion of the investigating agency. Nobody can question why have you arrested so and so accused at so and so point of time and not earlier or not later. I mean, this is the discretion of the Delhi police at what time to arrest which accused, and we should not question that. If at all anyone should have questioned it, it is Umar Khalid or his when he was produced before the court today. But I don't think any such point was raised there.
Okay, here the point there being that the charge sheet will be filed in 3 days from now, but the police will continue investigating him after that as well. Is this a little odd, or in the way cases are usually investigated, you find this normal, Mr. Neeraj Kumar?
Well, if he has been arrested today, as you said, you have 180 days to file the charge sheet. But if the Delhi police decides to file the charge sheet earlier, I mean, there is nothing preventing them from doing. And if they want to continue investigating against him, that also is possible. And there are any number of Supreme Court judgments to this effect that a person, even after being charge sheeted, followed up, can be that lead can be followed up and a supplementary charge filed later. So I don't think there is any issue involved. And if there was, the court today where he was, would have raised it, would have brought it up before the and then taken a call. The very fact that his custody has been given to the police shows that everything is kosher.
Okay, let me come to the second part. Let me come to the second part of this one, and I just want to make this clear. What I said in the beginning of this conversation as well. We are not here to say that Umar Khalid has not done anything wrong or he is fully guilty. That's for the police to find out and the police to present in the court. Because this controversy is going on, here are the questions people have raised, and those are the ones our experts sitting here are answering. Now, the other part of this controversy is this. On 27th of January, we had a top politician, minister, who came on and said, "Desh ke gaddaron ko goli maro," is what the crowd chanted. We also had another leader of the BJP who was then seen on the streets of Delhi in the run-up to the riots, on the day the riots unfolded, leading a group of people. He even said India versus Pakistan on February 8th in Delhi in reference to the election, and then he continued with that kind of rhetorics against the CA protesters even after that. Kapil Mishra still roams free, no action taken against him. He said, we will be peaceful till Trump leaves. After that, we will not listen to you. Roams free, absolutely. We've got leader after leader, those linked to the other side, to the pro-CA side, who've made equally dramatic comments, who roam free. Mr. Siddharth Luthra, let me come to you. Is there merit to the charge that the Delhi police investigation, then in this case, is selective?
I would only say this, that the Delhi police has had a reputation of being a professionally run police and a credible police force. And their role in their job is to have a free and fair investigation. If anybody breaches the law and it comes to their knowledge, they must investigate and prosecute. If they do not do that, they will be questioned on an unfair investigation, and legitimately so. The matter is pending investigation and pending inquiry, so I don't want to comment it further. But whenever there are cross versions of an incident, then it is the role of the police, in terms of the settled law of the Supreme Court, to investigate every aspect and everybody's role, irrespective of who they are, what office they hold. And the law there must be respect for the rule of law, because you and I depend on that as ordinary citizens. And that is the role of the police, to act freely, fairly, beyond political interference. And things may sometimes be delayed, but they should not be avoided.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but and of course, Delhi police is one of the most reputed. They've handled tougher, bigger cases. In fact, they've had a very rough year. The past 1 year, not just during the pandemic and handling the pandemic, but the riots that happened in the month of February, election before that, the student violence that unfolded before that. Since November and December, things have been extremely active in the national capital, Mr. Neeraj Kumar. But do you still believe that they're doing a unbiased professional job when many others who made provocative statements roam free? Only those who were clearly against the Citizenship Amendment Act and protesting have been named, booked, arrested, put behind bars.
Is that a question to me, Mr. Kumar?
I would not like to be a spokesperson, but my sense is that if these riots were directly linked to the speeches that you have quoted, surely action would have been taken. To the best of my memory, when Mr. Kapil Mishra is making that speech, he says 2 days from now, we will allow Mr. Trump's visit to get over. But 2 days from now, if these people do not clear the road, then we will take law into our own hands. This is what he said. But the rioting started the same day, the same night. Now, it is not as if the people he was trying to instigate, or the people who were behind him, they started the rioting. The rioting started from another quarter. I don't want to say which quarter, but another quarter. And Mr. Kapil Mishra's speech, or the other speeches that you have quoted, they were not found to be directly linked to the instigation of the riots. And I guess, and I believe that that is the reason why the Delhi police did not arraign them as an accused in the case. But it is a matter of debate.
Well, let me just point out here, because no, sir, it's not just a matter of debate. It's a matter of a record from what even a court has said. Perusal of the case diary reveals a disturbing fact. The investigation seems to be targeted only towards one end. Upon inquiry from the inspector, they have failed to point out what investigation has been carried out so far in the involvement of the rival faction. This is something which was said by the additional sessions judge, Dharmendra Rana on Wednesday, 27th May. In fact, I can read out more such details where the court has even pointed out about simple cut, copy, paste jobs and questioned the Delhi police in its selective investigation when it comes to Delhi riots case in the month of May. We are in September now. The Delhi police doesn't even seem to be bothered about that and has not even followed up on the investigation or a single arrest or questioning on the other side.
If I may.
If by side you mean the Hindu assailants or the Hindu rioters, I'm sure you know the number of people who were arrested in the riot cases of the Northeast district. There are, I don't remember the exact figures, but a substantial number of people, number of Hindus have also been arrested. It is a narrative that a partisan investigation is being conducted, or evidence is being manufactured to go against a certain community. These are narratives which are not based on facts. These are perceptions, and when you will go into the facts, when the courts go into the facts, into the nitty-gritties of how the conspiracy was hatched and how it was implemented, and how it is not as if everything happened overnight. It was building up over a period of time, and there were a set of people who were working overtime to take things to this stage, that there was a kind of an explosion of sentiments, and people took to the streets to riot and to attack people from the other community. It is a very sordid tale from whatever little I know of the case. And all the contours of the conspiracy at some stage, I feel, should be brought to the notice of the public, and I'm sure it will be once the final charge sheet is filed.
Okay, I take your point, though I refuse to agree with you that this is because a narrative that is being built. The facts that I present to you are things that have been noted and observed and said by the courts who are actually hearing these cases and looking into these cases, and has been widely reported basis what the courts are saying. What I asked you otherwise, of course, could be basis the public sentiment pro or anti-CAA, and there, of course, you can say that the narrative goes one way or the other. Very quickly, Ashish Dixit wanted to come in and make a point. Go ahead, please.
Tanvi, because you're quoting what has been observed by court, let me also inform you that these three speeches were taken to Honorable High Court in a writ petition seeking that there should be an FIR registered. And the petition was later on withdrawn, because the High Court was not directing that FIR should be registered. So this should also be taken note of. And I must also remind that a petition was also filed by Birinda Karat before the Metropolitan Magistrate seeking registration of FIR, and that has also been dismissed. So if we have to go by the rule of law, the courts have already taken a view that on these three statements, FIR cannot be registered. So I think the matter should end, or if there is any judgment by the higher court, then FIR might be registered. But as on date, the courts have taken a view.
So let me just point out that, Ashish, that the charge sheet against the other side, the few arrested that Mr. Neeraj Sharma was actually referring to, was only filed in the month of June, a week after the court actually pulled up the Delhi police for a one-sided investigation. And since then, no further development or big arrests have been made, and many of those big names who are visibly on camera giving provocative speeches still roam free, whereas those small-time student leaders in other parts of the country are being picked up, charged with under the Terrorism Act and sedition, and put behind bars. I am completely out of time. I'm going to thank all three of our panelists for joining us, clarifying us on the legal points, the legality involved, the questions that have been raised. Of course, it remains to be seen what happens next in the investigation. The court has gone ahead and given a 10-day custody to the police for Umar Khalid. The court clearly believes that what police has presented so far in terms of a deep-rooted conspiracy, as the Delhi police calls it, against the government by those who were protesting against CAA and NRC needs to be investigated further, and Umar Khalid's role in that will also be investigated. And we're going to keep a very close eye what is a fact and is out there for everybody to see, that many of the provocative speech makers from the other side, the pro-CAA holders, still roam free. One doesn't need to even wonder why that's happening. Thank you for joining us on debate number 1.